Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I'm said host, Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of February 27th, 2025, including Fable has officially been delayed to 2026. WB developer Monolith Productions is being closed down as news breaks of their upcoming Wonder Woman video game being canceled. Another Tony Hawk remaster collection seems to be coming very soon, and more. On this week in Xbox history, in the year 2020, 5 years ago, Overpass was released for the Xbox One in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. I definitely don't know anything about Overpass, but must have done well enough for there to be a sequel because there's an Overpass 2. So, someone out there's like, Jesse, you haven't played Overpass? What the hell's wrong with you, kid? I don't know, man. A lot of things, but this isn't one of them. Guys, welcome to Xbox On. A little bit of a dilemma. I got to pose it to the audience, okay? I'm trying to be really wise with my money right now. I'm trying not to be a bad boy, trying to say no more often than yes to impulses and urges, but I got to be honest. So, as the time I'm recording this Wednesday evening, February 26th, the night of February 26th, I am I'm feeling very driven to get tickets to go see Monster Jam, which is this Saturday here in Orlando. I very much want to go. I very much want to see Monster Jam. Now, you might say, Jesse, that's a little out of character for you. No, it's not at all. Monster Jam's fucking awesome. I went to Monster Jam a couple of times as a kid because my buddy's dad was super into it. And every year he would get a couple tickets and be like, you can take two friends. And for a couple of years, my buddy would always go, he'd always bring me and we'd go. And I remember the first year being like, this is going to be so dumb. It's just going to be monster trucks and rednecks and beer. And then I went and I was like, monster trucks are fucking awesome. And that was me at like 10. And then all these years later, I'm just like, damn, I really want to go back to Monster Jam. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun. It's kind of like the best thing our country really has to offer is the fact that monster trucks exist, you know? So I'm thinking about it every year. It always comes like around February, March. It always starts to hit the Southeast United States. And the thing that's really nice about living here, kind of in between the Orlando, Tampa area, is it'll hit Tampa one week and then be in Orlando the next week. So if I miss one city, I can just go to the other. And every year I fucking let it pass. I'm like, should I go? No, not this year. But this year I'm just really like, I need to fucking do it. I need to just jump on it. Here's my thing. I can bite the bullet and be like, all right, this mainly goes for concerts and sporting events. It's like, all right, we're going to pay fucking $30 a person to go see the Tampa Bay Rays. They're not worth more than $10, but I guess we're going to pay $30, whatever. You're going to go to a fucking concert to see a band you've seen 100,000 times at every Warped Tour who you used to be able to see for like $20, but now their tickets are $40, whatever. But this is the thing that really gets me with these live events. It's like, the fucking parking. I can't stand living in a place like Central Florida where everything is so car dependent and then I'm expected to pay for parking because they get away with it in cities like New York and LA, so I guess we can do it. It fucking drives me nuts. You want to park at our stadium, that'll be $30. Go kill yourself. And that's really the thing that gets me. It's like, I'll bite the bullet. I'll spend $100 for two people to go to Monster Jam and get the tickets. That's fine. But it's the $20, $30 parking outside the arena. That's just the thing that puts me over the top. It's like a principle matter. It's like, I feel like I'm being so ripped off because this money, like, you might as well just make the ticket to Monster Jam $70 and give a percentage of that ticket to the venue for parking so that you can trick people like me into thinking they're getting better value. But it's just, it's that thing about the parking, man. It always fucking gets me. And it's not like when I lived in Atlanta or something where it's like, oh, just take the train into the city and then you don't have to worry about the parking. It's like, you can't do that here. Everything is fucking I-4 and traffic and Toyota Corollas and $30 parking. It drives me nuts, man. It drives me fucking nuts. But I'm thinking about it. We'll follow back up on this next week. If I caved and we went to Monster Jam, you'll know because I'll be like, fuck Xbox, I'm driving a monster truck. But that's probably not going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. I'm thinking about it a lot right now. Any advice would be welcome. Thank you. Guys, welcome to the Xbox On podcast, the only podcast that covers both Xboxes and Monster Jams and a jam for monsters, because as you all know, monsters are allergic to regular human jams like raspberry and strawberry and grape, and they have to eat different kinds of jams like booger jam and guts and grime jam. Why are monsters always portrayed like so evil and gross and disturbing? What the hell is up with that, dude? What if monsters are cleaner and more sanitary and more polite and more civil than all of humanity? Which honestly, wouldn't be surprised at this point if that's true. Guys, I'm holding a Nerf dart in my hand. I don't know where this came from, but it's time to talk about Xbox. New game releases? Did I hear someone in the audience say, Jesse, what games come out this week? Well, I got one for you, little Jimmy in the third row. It's Monster Hunter Wilds. It's out this week. Oh my God, this game is going to sell like crack. It comes out February 28th. So this Friday, Monster Hunter Wilds will officially be out. This is the proper follow-up to the, what was that, 2018? Was it 2018 Monster Hunter Worlds? Holy shit, is that game 7 years old? God damn. Anyway, this is like the next AAA follow-up to that, you know, that the new era of Monster Hunter that's for like PlayStation and Xbox and not for like Nintendo 3DS. So anyway, needless to say, this game's going to do incredibly well. Monster Hunter Worlds did incredibly well. Every Monster Hunter game does incredibly well, and this game should be no freaking different. I always feel bad because I really love Monster Hunter. But I just feel like I got my fill of this franchise. Every time a new one comes out, I'm like, I used to love these games so much, but it's just too much for me now. I see it. It looks good. I know it's good. I know people are going to love it. It's just too much for me. But you guys go out there and enjoy Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm going to sit back on the porch sipping my sweet tea, pondering whether or not I should pay $30 to park at Camping World this weekend so I can go to Monster Jam. We'll figure it out in due time. All right, you guys, let's start out this week. It's a slow news week. It's just that time of year. There's not too much happening. Although this week, and I feel like I say this way too often nowadays, this week is like a substance, you know, it's like a quality over quantity, because there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. There's just not a lot of news relative to how much we normally get. So definitely a good podcast. You're not going to want to touch that dial, you fucking idiot. We got some good shit. You want to hear about layoffs and game the cancellations and delays, and we got that news. We got it in spades, baby. All right, let's talk about our mildly amusing stories. Kick off this week's podcast with some appetizers. You said, man, just meeting a coworker for lunch. Really shouldn't get an appetizer. This is more of like a get a sandwich, get a salad, get a water or a Coke and kind of call it a day kind of thing. But no, you got to have an appetizer. After all, this is the USA, where we charge people $30 to park in the suburbs and call it the city because Orlando. Fuck it. Give me those barbecue chicken tostadas, tostada. What is it they had? At one time I went to Planet Hollywood, and they were like gyoza, like pot sticker skins, but they loaded them like tostones, and so it was like a Tex-Mex Asian thing, because it's Planet Hollywood. Why wouldn't it be? And it was like pot sticker skins, but like stretched out, thin and crispy, like a tortilla chip or a tostone or something. And then they loaded it with like barbecue chicken and cheese, and it was actually fucking awesome. I think about that appetizer a lot because I had it once like 5 years ago, and it was really good. And so now you guys have to hear about it. But yeah, that's Planet Hollywood. You can eat there at Las Vegas or something. I don't know. Guys, the tostones of this episode are going to be all about some numbers. I want to talk about these numbers because this is actually really interesting. It's just one of those put things into perspective for you kind of moments. So this is from Matt Piscatella of Circana, which is the NPD group that puts together numbers of consoles and video games sold month over month and tracks video game performance by sales data, and said that more than 40% of the total time spent playing PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles in the United States last month was spent across just 10 live service games. It's insane. That's according to Matt Piscatella. We just said that, blah, blah, blah. In his thread on Blue Sky, this is all from VGC relaying the information. In a thread on Blue Sky, Matt Piscatella points out that more than 70% of active PlayStation and Xbox current gen users in the United States played at least one of the top 10 live service games in the month of January. While some of these players may have simply just tried the game and then moved on to something else, These 10 live service games have been popular enough to command a combined 40% of playtime spent across the entire PS5 Xbox Series libraries in the previous month. Piscatella notes on Blue Sky that the statistics may be concerning for the developers and publishers of other games because the total U.S. video game market spending, total player hours played, peaked in 2021 at a pace that and the pace of games being released since then hasn't slowed down. So in other words, the number of people playing video games since 2021 has not gone up. The number of time and attention spent across all games has been concentrated and centralized to roughly 10 games, and the number of video games releasing on average has not slowed down at all. So as such, the potential pool of players is getting smaller and smaller in a sense for many games, many publishers and developers out there. So what are these 10 games? Well, it doesn't list exactly what they are, but you can assume, at least to some extent, it's the usual suspects. So Fortnite, Call of Duty, Roblox, Minecraft, GTA Online, that kind of shit. Probably FIFA or something. I don't fucking know. Apex Legends. And in any case, this is just... It's super telling, and at least anecdotally, I know this to be true because everyone in my fucking life just wants to play Fortnite and Disney Dreamlight Valley and Marvel Rivals, and I'm just like, hey, I'm going to play Avowed, and after Avowed, I'm going to play Ninja Gaiden 2 because I just play the games Xbox tells me to play, and it's just, I feel, it's so weird, like, I feel so out of touch in a way. I'm like, is this really like the boomer way to play games? It's just like, oh, what's the latest and greatest game that's out? It's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I want to try that game. And then you move on to the next game. That's back when I was a kid. You guys got to understand, all the 12-year-olds out there. You got to understand, back when I was a kid, we would play a multitude of games, a litany of games, and we would explore and expand our tastes by trying new things all the time. But there were certain games that would come out at tentpole moments that would just command the attention of the general gaming audience. So when a game like Halo 3 comes out, you stop what you're doing and you play Halo 3. It's what you do, okay? But in the interim, between your Halo 3s and your Gears of War 3s and your fucking Mass Effects and your Bioshocks, you explore the field a little bit. Or you dabble in some malware, okay? And by malware, I'm talking about my licensed movie tie-in garbage. But that's how it used to be. You're always jumping from game to game to game. And sure, there are some games that are going to suck up a lot more time than others. Again, looking at you, Halo 3. But you make time to try out Army of Two and find out that game is also badass. And you make time to play the shitty Kung Fu Panda game that came packed in with your Xbox 360 arcade bundle because, hey, free gamer score is free gamer score. You know what I mean? But nowadays, it's like, no, my mom bought me the PlayStation 5, and I just play Fortnite and wear very baggy sweatpants, and I wear Crocs or Nike slides, and I got broccoli hair, and when I'm not on Fortnite, I'm on TikTok, and it's just those two things. I have the same amount of time as everyone else in the world, but I only do TikTok and Fortnite, and if you tell me to do something else, I will explode, except not really, because Gen Z is really cool at always acting like they don't care and nothing phases them, when in reality, deep down inside, they're broken, soulless human beings because they were not there when Sonic Unleashed came out. It always goes back to Sonic Unleashed. It's just crazy to me. Listen, I get it. I get the appeal. I love Destiny. Recently, I discovered I really like Marvel Rivals, and I said, no. I stopped playing it because I don't want it to become a problem. And I go through periods and spells of time where it's like, I'm just really feeling this game or that game. You guys remember, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, when Black Ops Cold War came out in 2020, I had a weird fixation with that game for a year. It was like the game that consumed probably 60 to 70% of my video game playing time. It happens. I totally get it. And you should always just play what feels good. At the end of the day, video games are a hobby. It's something that's meant to take up your free time and just give you some leisure activity and fun. So you know what? If 20 years of Fortnite is what piques your interest, by all means, enjoy it. Just have a good time. But I just have a hard time understanding it because it's like, how do you not get... dude who spent $4,000 on Fortnite getting all the fucking Peter Griffin skins, how do you not at some point turn your eye and go, damn, Avowed looks pretty fucking cool. Maybe I will give that game... Oh, Doom the Dark Ages? Game looks pretty dope. And then if hypothetically Sony still made video games, you'd be like, Last of Us Part 3? Sounds pretty cool. Maybe I'll go play that. But we're just not there anymore. We don't live in that time. apparently, for most people. And if you're like me, I guess we're aging out. We're this boomer generation, right? I wonder if we're going to reach a point where, like, the way people talk about video games or the way people talk about houses, where it's like, oh, well, I played all the Mass Effects. I played all the fucking Disney Infinities. I played all the supermassive fucking horror games. And people are going to be like, you know what, you boomer, that's because you're from a generation where games were affordable and you could just afford to try all the new games. My generation doesn't have that luxury. We can only afford free to play. We can only afford Fortnite. And then my generation will be like, that's bullshit. If you didn't spend $5 a day on Starbucks, I mean $20 a day on Fortnite skins, maybe you could afford to play the deluxe edition of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And you'd be like, you just don't understand it. My generation will never be able to afford pre-order editions of video games because we're poor and the government's broken and the jobs don't pay. So all we can play is Marvel Rivals because it's free to play. And maybe that's how it'll go. I don't fucking know, but I'm confused. But clearly the numbers don't lie. At least anecdotally, this has been true for me. So I believe these numbers. Looking at it, I don't doubt it for a second, because there's like 2 people in my life who play video games, and then everyone else is just like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Madden, FIFA, Disney Dreamlight Valley. Looking at as my girlfriend freaking screams downstairs playing Dreamlight Valley on my Xbox. On my Xbox, dude. Better not be unlocking achievements on my account. Anyway, I don't really have anything else to say. It's just wild, man. It's clearly we're in a different time period. Things have changed. And, you know, to tie it all to Xbox specifically, I do think there is a huge, again, it's something I keep saying. It's like, this is an old mentality of like exclusive games on this platform versus exclusive games on that platform, and which platform you should invest in. Because nowadays it's like people aren't invested in Xbox or PlayStation. They're invested in Fortnite or Call of Duty. And so it's like, you just want to be the platform that has all the features and all the accessibility and all the stuff, so you can just meet players where they're at and be convenient and accessible and easy, because people don't care about the platform as much. They just care about the games. And I think that's, or the game. And, I mean, that's the one silver lining in this, is that, honestly, I mean, Xbox finally has the fucking games, but maybe more than ever before, Xbox doesn't need the games. And we'll talk about Avowed when we get to what I've been playing. But yeah, maybe that's really fucking true, because between Indiana Jones and Avowed and all these things, it's like Xbox, I don't think anyone gives a shit if you're making games. They just want to play Fortnite. So just keep having the best controller on the market and you're good, I guess. All right, let's move on. Something I'm really excited about. This has been teased, leaked, rumored a lot very recently in the past month or so, multiple times, but it's really just confirmed at this point. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remaster have been rated in Singapore. The game, which Tony Hawk and Activision have been teasing in the weeks ahead of the reveal in March, has been rated for Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series, PC, PS4, and 5. And the ratings board also lists the game as a 2025 title, suggesting that a release date could be announced during a full reveal in March. Earlier in the week, Tony Hawk posted images himself of several classic skaters in front of a teaser graphic that reads March 4th, 2025. Or if you're in Europe, April 3rd, 2025. Don't be in Europe because that's the wrong date. Anyway, with loading new parks written underneath the date, all this is confirming that a new title will be announced soon. This is the same iconography found on the Tony Hawk website, which also points to the developer behind the new remake, Iron Galaxy, a team that just suffered layoffs, ironically enough. The studio behind the PC version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is named on the teaser site. The studio recently worked on Killer Instinct and Rumbleverse, in addition to co-developing remaster Crash-inspired trilogies. You might be saying, well, who made the remaster collection of the first and second Tony Hawk Pro Skater for Xbox and PlayStation? And I would say, well, that was Neversoft, and then Neversoft got lumped by Activision into Blizzard to help do like support work on fucking like Hearthstone or Warcraft or some dog shit, like I think it was Diablo actually. So they're basically gone. So I guess now Iron Galaxy is going to be heading these remakes, which is interesting because it's like, well, how are these going to be different then? Because Neversoft did a fucking great job. Too bad that Activision couldn't see the value in having a legacy team like that persist. But nonetheless, this is obviously exciting. Everyone's been asking for these for a while. Tony Hawk's been pretty vocal about wanting this to happen. And personally, I can't say too much about these games because while I did grow up on Tony Hawk games, I don't know what caused this to be the case, but I have very warm, fuzzy memories as a child playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and then dabbling in 2, and then I never played 3 and 4. I know people love 3 and 4. That's the one where you can create your own skate park. I never played 3 and 4. And then you go to Tony Hawk's Underground 1 and 2 and American Wasteland and all that, and I'm right back at it. I played all those games religiously as a kid. I loved them all. For some reason, Pro Skater 3 and 4, they just never happened for me. So I have no connection to these games, no relations. I mean, obviously I played 1 and 2, and I'm very familiar with the franchise overall, so I'm sure playing these will feel very much right at home and nostalgic in some weird, I never played this game, but it still feels comforting kind of way. So I'm still excited about it. Definitely looking forward to it. Obviously, this will be a day one Game Pass thing because Activision, Xbox, all that. But yeah, really exciting stuff. Dude, the world needs Tony Hawk games just as much as the world needs its budgety licensed movie games. The world needs these Tony Hawk games. They were so good. They did not need to go anywhere. And I know a lot of people are like, what about Skate? What about these other games? It's like, no, that's missing the point. The point of Tony Hawk, it's very much like, why do people like arcade racers? It's not because people like racing real life cars. I don't want to play Forza Motorsport. I want to play Ridge Racer. And that's what Tony Hawk is. It's the very arcadey fun version of skateboarding. I don't want to learn how to master the art of skateboarding. I want to just button mash and do a crazy combo and then have the weird graphics guy go spinny with his hands and be like, do a kickflip to not a spin. And then fucking listen to Dropkick Murphys as I tear up New Jersey and fucking Tony Hawk's Underground. So that's what I want. And that's what these games provide. And I think the world still needs that. So this is very comforting and very exciting to know Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, it's coming. And we'll just drop it there because honestly, by the time this podcast goes live, we'll be a mere 3 or 4 days away from this being formally announced. And so there probably won't be, there's nothing really to say now because there'll be more to say next week. Hopefully this is coming pretty soon. Some rumors suggest it could come out this month, like March, next month, March. And some rumors suggest it will be a surprise drop at the Xbox Summer Showcase in June. So in either way, yeah, it's pretty close. So just another Xbox game to add to the fucking mountain of games coming right now to Game Pass subscribers. So, awesome. And then one more here. This is kind of more of an update than anything, but it's just a series of quotes from Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, who was on a podcast recently talking about AI, their new AI model Muse that we talked about last week that was announced, that was basically just aping Ninja Theory's 2020 game Bleeding Edge and then mimicking that to try and create AI versions of video games. So he's on this, Satya Nadella's on this Dwarkesh podcast, and he's commenting on this AI model Muse and what it means for the future of video games. And he says, he compares it to that wow moment that he felt when he first saw other AI models like ChatGPT for the first time. According to him, he said Microsoft's already planning to utilize generative AI on multiple games. Boo. It's just, he says, quote, it's just very cool. One thing that we actually wanted to go after, using gameplay data, you can actually generate games that are both consistent and themselves have the ability to generate a diversity of what the game represents. And then there are persistent to user mods, right? So that's what this is. It's cool that the cool thing is that what I'm excited about bringing, we're going to have a catalog of games soon that will start using these models, or we're going to train these models to generate and then start playing them. In fact, when Phil Spencer first showed me where he had an Xbox controller and this model basically took the input and generated the output based on the input, it was consistent with the game. And that to me was a massive, massive wow moment. It's kind of like the first time we saw ChatGPT complete sentences or Dolly Draw or Sora. It was that kind of moment for me. This is just, doubling down the whole, we're going to do AI. And Microsoft was talking about it last week in the form of like, we want to use it to preserve video games, which is just in and of itself kind of an oxymoron or just kind of contradictory because it's like, how are you preserving games by telling an AI model to recreate some facsimile of a game and not actually recreate the game? Wouldn't preservation be painstakingly taking the original code and moving it forward to modern platforms and then touching it up maybe slightly just to kind of make it more playable and accessible and then making it available on platforms where everyone has access to? Isn't that preserving games more so than telling an AI model, hey, here's a video game that's from 25 years ago. Just fucking ape this shit and give me something that's more or less the same thing. That is imitation. That's not preservation. So just in of itself, there's a contradiction there. It seems lazy and haphazard for a company that seems all about video game preservation and bringing things forward. This seems like the absolute worst way to go about it. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who does a podcast to like 20 people in his boxers, and this is just like the most powerful corporation of all time. So what the fuck do I know? Except maybe I know a lot. Maybe I know way more than Satya Nadella. Maybe I'm a fucking genius and you don't know it yet. And you're just a stupid little CEO. And you're just out here being dumb with your CEO brain and your CEO money. And I'm actually a freaking genius. And how am I a genius? Well, I can't tell you, because then I wouldn't be so much of a genius, because then the genie would be out of the bottle and everyone would know my genius secrets. But just trust me, this is a dumb idea. All right, that's really it. I don't have anything to add to that. AI frustrates me and simultaneously bores the fuck out of me. So we're going to move on out of this appetizer mode and into the entree mode. Listen, today you just went for the chicken, avocado, and Swiss sandwich. That's fine. It's a little boring, but it's always a good choice. It's on a ciabatta roll, and you thought maybe this is kind of healthy. It's grilled chicken. It's got Swiss, and Swiss is a healthier cheese. It's got avocado. That's great. A little ciabatta roll. We're okay here. Maybe a little chipotle mayonnaise or some kind of aioli sauce. It's not the most healthy thing, but it's not the worst thing. It's got arugula on it, so it's not that bad. And then boom, they serve it with French fries, and then it's all fucking game over, because the French fries negate any healthy quality or any mildly not so terrible for you quality that would come from eating that chicken sandwich. Your lunch is over. You're already at 1,800 calories and it's only fucking 12:47 p.m., okay? You're done for. Don't even think about eating dinner when you go home, you fat fuck. All right. Sorry to be so aggressive. I just had to be honest. We're going to get to that entree. But first, I want to tell you about the games I've been playing this week, because the games I've been playing is called Avowed, and it's the hottest, latest game from Xbox Game Studios, and I'm very excited to talk about it because I like it. But before I can tell you about what I've been playing, I've got to tell you about what it is I've been eating. And speaking of fat, guys, I saw an ad. Advertisement works, apparently. I saw an ad for the Shamrock McFlurry at McDonald's, and I've done a pretty good job of not really like eating McDonald's lately, but I did it. I did it to McDonald's because it's that time of year where the Shamrock Shake comes around, and I'll be honest, I've never been a big Shamrock Shake fan. For people who don't have access to this, I don't know what countries they do and don't sell it in. It's a McDonald's milkshake that becomes available every year around St. Patrick's Day. It's just a vanilla milkshake with mint syrup in it. So it's like a minty vanilla milkshake. And people go crazy for this thing, or at least they used to. I know people used to really love this. And I've never had a thing for it. I don't dislike it at all. I like mint ice cream. It's fine. I think the Shamrock Shake is totally fine. But this year they're like, nah, fuck that. We're doubling down on Shamrock and we're doing a fucking McFlurry version of it. I'm like, okay. So it's an Oreo McFlurry, but with that mint ice cream. I'm like, okay. I don't know why. Normally this doesn't do it for me. I'm not a huge Oreo fan. But let's fucking go for the Shamrock McFlurry because advertisement told me to, and sometimes you just got to obey what the TV screen is telling you to do. So we did it. We went to the McDonald's. We mobile ordered it. We go through the drive-thru, and I say, give me that Shamrock Shake, you Shamrock fuckface. And they threw that milkshake at me. Side note, can we complain about what they've done with the McFlurry here? McFlurry used to have one of the most badass cups. First of all, the cup just had awesome artwork on it. Second of all, it just had that really crazy chunky lid. And then third of all, the McFlurry has it has one of the all-time great spoons of all time. That plastic translucent spoon, or is it transparent? I always forget which one's correct. Anyway, the fucking spoon that's so cool. It has like the blocky square thing with the hole in the top of it. That's because for efficiency's sake, they can stick the spoon into the ice cream machine, and then it churns the McFlurry in the cup, and it's like an efficient way to get it out to the customer. It's efficient, it's creative, it's interesting, and it's awesome looking. It was iconic. I love the McFlurry cup. I love the artwork on the McFlurry cup. I love the McFlurry spoon. I fucking love the McFlurry. Give me an M&M McFlurry any day of the week. I'm a happy lad. But I don't know what the fuck is wrong with McDonald's that they changed everything. The McFlurry now comes in a cardboard box, and they give you a generic black takeout spoon. The same kind of spoon you'd get at the Chinese restaurant or the Italian restaurant or the chain restaurant or the mom and pop restaurant. It is nothing to write home about. This spoon is so underwhelming, it makes me never want to spoon a woman ever again. It makes me want to just roll over to the other side of the bed and sit there in contempt because this is a fucking miserable spoon. So McDonald's, get it together. You got so many tax dollars in your fucking pocket. Figure out your spoon game, okay? It's one of those things. Like, that was like one of those rare things. This is going to be a hard thing to articulate, but you know when you go to like IKEA and you see like a really creative piece of furniture, the way it's assembled, the way it's utilized in a small space, and the way it's like functionally done. Like you go to IKEA and you see like the shopping cart that has the ridges and the wheels that lock in place onto the conveyor belt or the escalator that goes upstairs. So it's like, oh my God, an escalator that lets you take your shopping cart upstairs. That's fucking ingenious. And it's one of those like, man, I guess people in Europe are really creative and smart compared to people in America. Or you watch those YouTube videos of people like in Japan and they got like the fucking vending machines and they buy the soup and it's like, how the fuck are you eating a full ass bowl of ramen that came out of a vending machine and it looks great, it tastes great, and it's packaged so perfectly. And it's one of those things where you're like, God, in Japan, they're just so thoughtful about the user experience and the packaging and just the overall like presentation experience and convenience factor that goes into everything they make. There's just so much engineering marvel. You think about parts of the world like Sweden and Finland and Japan and Korea and stuff like that, right? The US always lacks that shit. The US isn't like cute and thoughtful and creative. The US is like, fuck you, here's a pickup truck. Fuck you, here's blue jeans. Fuck you, here's communism. Like, that's the US, right? But like, McDonald's had this one thing that made us kind of look cool, and it was that McFlurry milkshake fucking spoon stick thing, and it was awesome, and it was ours, and other countries would go to McDonald's, and they'd get a McFlurry, and they'd see that spoon, and they'd go, that's the USA, right there, that's the USA. The ice cream machine isn't reliable, just like a fucking Ford pickup truck, but goddamn is that a cool spoon. But now we don't even have that, so it's just like, God, it's like we're losing our identity every day. McDonald's is just a fucking shell of what it once was. Just no one in this country takes pride in being forward thinking or innovative. We just settle for less. And we're just okay with that. It's okay that the average automobile costs $45,000 and gives you less than you got 20 years ago for 20 grand. It's okay. We've settled as a country, and no better example I can think of right now as to what I mean than what's happening at McDonald's with that cardboard cup they put your ice cream in and that generic black takeout spoon they throw in the bag haphazardly if you're lucky. So was the Shamrock McFlurry good? It was fine. I wouldn't get it again, but it was fine. But that's it for what I've been eating, you guys. Your tummy's full. You got ice cream in there. Hopefully you're not lactose intolerant. Let's get to what I've been playing because it's Avowed. I've been playing Avowed finally, thank God. I didn't do the early access because I wasn't available last weekend, but I made myself available this weekend. And honestly, I haven't played as much of Avowed as I'd like to have played. I'm really only like 6 or 7 hours in, which is very frustrating to me because I want to play this game. But goddamn it, being an adult sucks. I don't know how parents do it. Anyway, so let's just talk about Avowed. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I'm struggling to have a lot to say about this game. I mean, I could talk on and on about it, I guess, but I don't feel like I have anything too unique to say. In premise, Avowed is just Obsidian's way of saying, hey, we can do Elder Scrolls also, right? But you got to keep in mind, these are the guys that make the Outer Worlds, and you got to keep in mind that these guys have a very high output of games. They don't make games like once every 10 years like most developers. They make like a game every couple of years. We get stuff from these guys all the time. So I always walked into Avowed with this expectation that it's not going to be as big and vast as Oblivion. And it's not going to be like the questing isn't going to go as far. And it's just not going to have as many nooks and crannies and caves and things to explore. And I wasn't expecting that. And honestly, what this game is actually a little bigger, a little more grand, and a little more exploration focused than even what I was anticipating. But despite all that, it is disheartening to watch this game kind of just it's weird. It's not getting shit on, but it's not getting praised at all. This is just yet another Xbox game that came and went. And just, the Metacritic score, it's like a 79, 80. It's like a very high C or very low B. And it's just like, that's technically good. For first party games, we generally assume or hope for something a little higher. Usually for first party output, you expect that to be the cream of the crop. Oh, that's going to be a B+ or an A- at least. This game, of course, ends its Metacritic run at somewhere in the upper C+ range. And it's just like, I don't know, a little underwhelming, because it's like everyone knows what a great developer Obsidian is, and everyone respects them for their past and everything. And then they finally put out their first stem to stern, first party, Xbox exclusive, Xbox first party style game from the trenches to release. And what we have here is nothing shy of a really, really competent, I'd say great video game. And at first it was like, oh, I think Avowed's doing good. It launched with like a B score, and it was like the number one game on Steam, and it was like on the top of the charts, and people were buying it and playing it. I'm like, all right, let's fucking go. Avowed's going to be one of those games that has a pretty good start, and then it's just going to keep going, and the word of mouth is going to be strong, and people are going to start playing it, and people are going to be like, yo, have you checked out this game Avowed? And before you know it, I'm not saying it's going to be Skyrim big, but it'll be a pretty decent hit for Xbox. But it just seems like the game's been out for a week or 2 weeks, depending on whether or not you got that early access. And the overall reaction's like, meh. I was going through the Steam reviews for this game, Steam user reviews, because I think that's kind of like the most reliable review system out there, right? Because you have to have played the game. It keeps you honest. It tells people how many hours you have logged on the game when you review it. And people kind of take Steam reviews seriously, generally speaking, a lot more serious than user Rotten Tomato scores and things like that. And it just seems like overall people are like, yeah, it's fine. It's fucking fine. If you liked the Outer Worlds, you'll probably like this too. Don't expect Skyrim. Like, that's kind of like everyone's consensus to this. But like, it's a little disheartening because I can't just play this game in peace by myself without like constantly being reminded of or thinking about, it's like, why is it, man? It's like Indiana Jones comes out and it's great, but it doesn't do well at all. And Avowed comes out and it's great and people don't really care. But it's like, are people just kind of over this game? Is the big open world Western RPG style just kind of like a little tired at this point? It's like, I don't know, because these motherfuckers sure as hell aren't getting tired of like the trillionth Souls game. So it's like, I don't know what it is. And a part of me always wants to be lazy and be like, is this like an anti-Xbox thing? But then another part of me is like, no, that's not it. It's just the game is just kind of yet another one of these games. And even though it is great, it's not the most remarkable one of these games. And it's not bad at all. It's just like kind of another one for people who want it. And for everyone else, it's like, pay no attention here. Let's move on. And I try to like toe the line of like, taking both those things into consideration and trying to figure out kind of what's going on here. And it's like, Jesse, can't you just shut up and enjoy the game if you like the game and not worry about anything else? It's like, yeah, but I'm trying to come at this from the perspective of someone who hosts an Xbox podcast, and the objective of this podcast is we're going to talk about the news and the goings on of the Xbox universe. And this game is a big deal. I mean, this is one of the tentpole Xbox first party exclusive games that we've been waiting years to play and to see. And it's just like, man, I mean, Indie's out, this is out, Doom's almost out, all this stuff. It's like, after this, I mean, yeah, there's still plenty of games, Perfect Dark, Fable, and Blade, and all these other games that we're waiting on, and Everwild and such. But it's like State of Decay 3, Gears of War E-Day, so there's plenty of games still on the roadmap, but it's just a little disheartening when it's like, damn, Starfield didn't hit it. Indie, everyone said it was good, but it didn't do well, and nobody talked about it. All right, Avowed, it's like, people are like, it's fine, it's whatever, just move on. It's like, when does Xbox finally hit? Like, when does it finally happen? And I'm not trying to make a case like, I think these games are amazing, and everyone else is just stupid for not seeing it, although I do kind of feel that way. I gotta fight the urge not to really, truly buy into that. But then the other aspect is like, okay, so these games are all mid or whatever, or deeply flawed, right? There's a reason Halo Infinite wasn't the game that set the world on fire, and Starfield wasn't the game that set the world on fire, and Indie wasn't the game that set the world on fire, and Avowed wasn't the game that set the world on fire. But it's like, but why? Why do they keep missing? And it's not to say these games are catastrophic failures. In fact, most of them are commercial successes. Most of them, not Indie apparently, most of them are commercial successes. But there's just... they just can't fucking hit that. They just can't get it. They can't get that commercial hit, that buzz, that water cooler moment, that, hey, stop what you're doing, guys. Have you seen this game? But it's like, Sony could fucking shit bricks. And as long as it's not, what's that game that they just, Concord, that game that they just canceled. As long as it's not Concord, it basically is guaranteed to do well. And Nintendo can be like, fucking, here's a Pikmin dating sim, fuck you. And it will still sell 10 trillion copies. But it's like, Xbox is like, hey, you guys know how you're all like really excited for Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out in 2087? Yes. Here's Avowed. And everyone's like, okay, don't care. It's like, okay, well, what the fuck do you guys want, man? Okay, because now I'll talk about the game. 7 hours in, and here's all I really got to say. If you like these style of games, if you like these Western RPG games, if you're a fan of Elder Scrolls, if you're a fan of Obsidian's previous works, if you're a fan of Fallout, if you're a fan of the Outer Worlds, play this fucking game. It's awesome. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir because this is an Xbox podcast listened to by Xbox fans. And I'm sure many a listener to this podcast are like, yeah, Jesse, I'm right there with you, man. I'm loving this game. So I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but like, bro, this game's fucking cool. Like, and here's the honest part. Yeah, it's nothing mind-blowing or like unlike anything we've ever seen before. It's really not. And I find the main quest line to be kind of like whatever. It's engaging enough, and I'm just along for the ride. But you know what? I felt that way about the Outer Worlds, and I felt that way about Skyrim, and I felt that way about every Fallout I've ever played. I never, in fact, the only time I play one of these games, I'm like, wow, I really like this story. Really was just Starfield. Starfield's the only time I've ever felt that way. So I'm like, I don't know. Usually the main quest line isn't all that compelling. It's like usually fine and serviceable. But the point isn't the main quest line. The point is all the trappings around that and the experience from start to finish. And from that perspective, this game has it. It's not the most graphically impressive game of all time, but the graphics are really good. The art style is very unique and very stunning. This world is beautiful. The game is unique and creative from a storytelling point of view, but I'm sure plenty of people are going to make fun of the whole God-touched, godlike thing with like the plant faces and shit. So I just know that thing's going to be a joke to many. But this game's, it's just, I don't know. It's got the dialogue trees. It's got the characters. It's got the companions. It's got really good combat. Can we talk about the things this game does do in a unique manner that are very, very good and really deserve a lot of high praise for? The combat in this game is phenomenal. It's like not good. It's like phenomenal. It's like these games traditionally have pretty shit combat. Like it's usually a total afterthought, but God, hitting someone with a sword in this game feels so tactile and so satisfying. Shooting someone with your fucking wand, like whipping fucking magic booger bolts or whatever the hell. It's like, it's even more fun than Harry Potter. It's fucking awesome. Bows, super fun to use. This game has an awesome ammo system where there is no ammo. You can use guns, bows and arrows, wands, whatever. There's no ammo. There's just like mana. It's basically energy and power charge that you just have to let refresh. So it's like you can get different loadouts like it's fucking Call of Duty, and you can dual wield weapons, and it's so fucking badass. You get special abilities, and it's so badass. My main loadout is just a simple one-handed sword and a wand, and I love just fucking whipping the fuck out of bitches with my wand, and then when I run out of energy, I just hit them from behind and slash them with my fucking sword, or I back up and I charge my attack all the way, and then I lunge forward and slash them in their fucking face, and then you just fucking double tap the A button, you zoom out of the way, and you just keep fucking whacking and slashing, playing around, and it feels good, it feels tactile, it feels fun, and it's like, wow, I think this is the first time I played one of these games where I choose violence over my words more often than not because I want to get into my next combat encounter and I want to whack and slash and shoot and spellbind my way out of this fucking mess because it's fun to play. That's a big accomplishment. The only other time I've played a game of this style where I felt like the combat is genuinely fun, actually 2 times. What little I've played of Cyberpunk 2077, and then Starfield, which I thought had very competent first-person shooting. So I just, it's very fun to play. It's very pretty to look at. It's very much a game you should be into if you're into these kinds of games. And then there's like the exploration part of it where I'm seeing people complain that there's no exploration in this game. I'm like, what are you talking about? It has a couple of areas and they're all very large areas, but it's not one massive open world like an Elder Scrolls game. Yes, I'll give you that. But I like that. So to me, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a plus. And when you're in these areas, there's plenty of opportunity to explore. There's plenty of chests and hidden loot to find. There's plenty of little cavernous areas to get off the beaten path and go dick around. And what's really cool about this game is it's very platformy based. Like there's tons and tons of movement and verticality in this game. You can jump on ledges and jump up mountains and jump from this mushroom to that rock platform to that over that cavern and over to here. It's like sometimes this game literally feels like you're playing a Mario game. It's like Mirror's Edge. It's like Elder Scrolls meets Mirror's Edge. You're just jumping around in first person platforming heaven, and then you're just whipping around in awesome combat encounters. It's like, I cannot believe I get to play a game that has that Skyrim or Elder Scrolls or Fallout style narrative and questing and everything, but with fun combat and fun environmental traversal. Like, that's really freaking cool and unique. So again, it's like, how are people not more into this? Now, the weak points of the game, I'll reiterate. The main storyline, I don't find it all that compelling. I don't think it's boring. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's anything super remarkable. Again, I'm only 7 hours in, but another thing I love about this game, very much like The Outer Worlds, is the main attraction is the main quest line, and the game absolutely does kind of funnel you into that. There are plenty of side quests you can do, and you're encouraged to do them, and I'm doing most of them, but the game really does kind of say, like, hey, you want to see the next really exciting thing? Go do the next step of the quest. It doesn't go, hey, the next quest is here when you're ready to do it, but feel free to go fucking dick around and see what else there is to do. And I know that this is where I am fundamentally, opposed or diametrically opposed to how most people feel about these kinds of games, because it's the same reason why I loved Starfield and most people hated it. Because most people want to hop in their spaceship, go fly to a random planet, and explore and create their own adventure. And in a game like Starfield, that was boring. But for me, I want to hop in my ship, fly to the next destination on the map, and go do the main quest line and find out what happens next in the story. And I'm playing this game very much the same way, and this game very much rewards you for playing what's next. And people want to play these games and go, ooh, where can I fuck off now? People want to get 200 hours into these games and only be on the third quest because they're having so much fun building their own adventures and having their own stories, which I get and I respect. It's just not how I enjoy these games, and it means nothing to me. So it's just hard for me to know that experience because I'm just too busy enjoying the carved out, predetermined experience that the developers have set before me. But we knew that with The Outer Worlds, that's how these kinds of games are designed. It's meant to be beaten in 20 hours. And if you want to do all the content, maybe 50, 60 hours. It's not supposed to be a 30 to 40 hour main quest line with 200 hours worth of gameplay if you really want to see and do it all. This was never supposed to be that. They've made that clear from the start. Outer Worlds 1 wasn't that. And so I feel like the precedent was set for this game. Yet audiences still insist on being disappointed to find out that this is not the next Elder Scrolls game, even though it is very much a game that Elder Scrolls fans would probably very much enjoy. And so that's kind of my beef with Avowed. It's just like, I'm liking the game. I'm liking it a lot. And every time I sit down to play it, I'm like, this feels good. But I just can't shake the what the fuck is going on feeling surrounding this and everything with Xbox. It's like, I can't wait to see people magically not give a shit about Doom the Dark Ages when it comes out because this one is released under the Xbox first party banner. Like, it's just, why? Why must it be that every game has some caveat that prevents it from being something special to everyone? And what is it about this game that it's just like so... I don't know, man. Like, I'd rather people just be like, yo, I hate this game than for everyone to just be so like bleh about it, because it's like, dude, Avowed is just everything we need games to become. That's my thing. It's like, we need games to take less time to develop. We need games to take fewer people to develop. We need games to be more cost effective, and we need them to still deliver really compelling, fun, and exciting experiences. And I feel like this game is another one of those rare examples of exactly what the industry needs. We don't need another Cyberpunk 2077 because those games take forever to make. They take thousands of people to make. They're very expensive, and they're very high risk, high reward. And in an industry where everyone's getting laid off left and right, we need gamers to understand that not every game has to look like the best game you've ever seen. And not every game has to have the highest number of hours to play before you roll credits. And not every game has to have the biggest open world. It's like, isn't it enough sometimes for a game to just be a really great experience that you can play this fantasy RPG experience for 20, 30, 40, 50 hours and have just a really great time and go, wow, thanks Game Pass. That was a really fun 20, 30, 40, 50 hours. Is it because you can't go off and marry the elf dwarf and go fuck off and play Family Sim for 45 hours on the side while you ignore the main quest line? Is it because you can't do that this game is suddenly unremarkable? I just don't get it. Characters are good. The voice acting is good. The dialogue is interesting. It's definitely not my favorite game I've ever played of this type, But as someone who is excited for Fable, loved Starfield a few years ago when it came out, is ready for another game like this, and just always hungry for some more deeply engrossing, like questing and open world single player RPG style game, I'm just finding that this game really scratches that itch. And it's just like, while I'm trying to enjoy it, I'm also just constantly like looking over my shoulder, like, what the fuck am I experiencing that everyone else is missing? I don't know, man. It's weird. But I really like Avowed. I'll be honest, I don't think it's game of the year, best thing I've ever played. I was expecting this to be like the game I was most hyped about, and I realized while I was playing it, I was like, okay, this is really good. It's definitely the best thing I've played so far this year, but I'm sure something else could top this. Again, it's not the most remarkable thing of all time, but it's good. It's pretty good, and I'm having a great time. I'd say it's even great. I would say this is a great game. This is a solid B+ of a video game. It's really good. But I'm suspecting that I'm going to like it more and more as I play it, because that's how I felt so far. Within the first hour, I was like, okay, I'm kind of see where this goes. And then by hour like 3, 4, 5, I was like, okay, I really like this game. So I suspect I'm only going to fall more and more in love with Avowed as I get deeper and deeper into it. But I don't know, there's just this weird thing hanging over this game. It just feels kind of cursed in a way. And I'm just wondering, like, when is it Xbox's turn to get some fucking love? How dare you shit on Obsidian and not give Obsidian their flowers when they're just such a fucking workhorse of a team, and they really deserve some love. And this game doesn't really do anything wrong. And I guess maybe that's not what people are saying. Maybe it's just that it doesn't do anything remarkably so right that it changes perspectives and minds. But it's like, I know that's not what everyone's always looking for, because we get games that are unremarkable but good all the time that are super popular. I mean, the most popular fucking free-to-play game right now is a Overwatch clone. Unremarkable as hell, but hey, it's fun. So, I don't know. Give Avowed some love is all I'm saying. But that's it for what I've been playing. I'll have much more to say about it next week once I'm like really deep into it. Hey, if I don't go to Monster Jam, I just really have nothing to do this week. I'll just play Avowed. That'd be really cool. We'll see. Guys, let's take a quick water break, and then we'll get into the what it is. Nope, not the what I've been playing. We'll get into the news, okay? So, see you in just a bit, little boy. Alrighty, let's jump into the news, you guys. We only got really 2 stories, but a bunch of things that spin off from these stories. So, let's start off with the big one, the sadder one. Well, no, less sad, bigger, but only because of relevance to this podcast. Guys, let's talk about Fable. It's been delayed. Alright, guys, so Xbox has officially delayed Fable to 2026. This is VGC's write-up, but the news comes from Xbox Game Studios head Craig Duncan, who announced on the official Xbox podcast hosted by Tina Amini. He says on the podcast, they call it the Xbox podcast. It's always released on like Xbox Wire and stuff. It's like a 20-30 minute video discussion they post on YouTube. But Craig Duncan, former head of Rare, who is now the head of Xbox Game Studios, replaced Alan Hartman, who was the head of Xbox Game Studios until a couple months ago, and he's from Turn 10 Studios originally. So he's being interviewed or chatting on this official Xbox podcast, which is glorified PR stuff. But it's an interesting little 20-minute podcast or video on YouTube. I recommend you check it out if you want to see more. But he talks about Fable towards the end of it. And so in regards to Fable, he says, so I just want to start really excited. We're really excited about the progress, and we're really excited about what Playground are doing. We previously announced that the previously announced date for Fable of 2025 is actually going to change as Fable needs more time, and it's going to ship in 2026 now. While I know this is not what the news many people wanted to hear, I want to assure people that this is definitely worth the wait. Accompanying the news of the delay, Microsoft shared news that Fable showed new pre-alpha footage of Fable, which is viewable on that Xbox podcast video, which you can find on xboxwire.com or youtube.com. He says, quote, I have unequivocal confidence in the Playground team. If you think that of their history, their legacy, Forza Horizon, the last 2 games, critically acclaimed, 92 Metacritic, award-winning, beautiful, played great, and just what they're bringing to Fable as a franchise, just think of the visuals, what you can expect from Playground games, plus amazing gameplay, British humor, Playground's version of Albion, also inspired by what's gone before with the franchise, but their take is quite frankly the most beautifully realized version of Albion we've ever seen. So really, I'm excited about the plans and really excited about the future, and I want to continue the community to understand that we do these things for the best of the game and for the best of the team, and ultimately the result is the better game or the best game for the community. So anyway, that's his news about it. So while he's talking, something that's really notable here is while he's talking and saying all this in the video, they're showing pre-alpha gameplay footage of Fable being played. And the thing that's crazy is this game's been shown a couple of times, but we've really never gotten proper gameplay footage of this game. We've gotten little glimpses and clips and snippets here and there cut into trailers that were mostly cinematic focused, but this is straight up gameplay of Fable, and it looks pretty fucking good. And you'll remember, like, the first time they showed it, everyone was like, oh, that was just a cutscene, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't real gameplay. And then Xbox was like, no, that's real gameplay. You're complimenting the game because it looks so good. That's real gameplay. It's not a cutscene. And you can kind of get a sense for what they mean by that now, finally, after a year or two of that conversation having happened, because this pre-alpha footage really shows the proper transition of what this game looks like in action. And I mean, it's frankly, it's crazy how beautiful this game is. I mean, what would you expect from the guys that make Forza Horizon? They make beautiful open worlds, but God, it's so dense and rich with incredible detail. It just looks, I've never seen anything like this. It's fucking amazing. But yeah, it shows like the typical like walking around, horseback riding, that kind of stuff. But then it shows like kind of somewhat extended combat, and it looks amazing. Like it shows, the only thing that's weird is it doesn't show the HUD. You still don't see the HUD of the game. So, but you actually do see hand-to-hand combat, swords, you see some magic, you see some battle axe, and then it shows this little clip where it transitions away from like this cinematic and into combat, and it's so seamless. It looks really, really good. The game actually just looks really phenomenal from a presentation standpoint. I mean, that's really all we have to go off of it. The combat mechanically doesn't look like anything super insane or unlike anything we've ever seen before, but again, it's just the presentation of this game just looks very next level, very next gen, very interesting. In fact, I'd argue that this is probably the most compelling next gen looking game I've seen for Xbox Series X in all the time that it's been around. So for me, this is a pretty exciting project just from, I want to see what this feels like once we get the finished product. So the gameplay itself, very hyped to see. The news that it's delayed to 2026, not even remotely surprising, man. I mean, I've been saying since December when we started talking about like what's ahead for Xbox in 2025, and I know people said, oh, it's going to be in 2025, and Xbox said it's going to be in 2025. I just never believed that. It wasn't at the developer direct. It wasn't something Xbox was talking about more candidly and continuously. And it just seemed like this thing that like it wasn't actually going to happen. And I think Windows Central were the ones that reported recently that it was probably going to slip, or they said some big Xbox release this year will slip to 2026. Lo and behold, it's this one. I was never surprised. I always assumed this would come out next year. So from that perspective, it's not like, for at least me, I'm not super disappointed or surprised, but I know there are some people who are going to be really bummed about this because some people were probably like, Jesse, you're so dumb. That's not true. It's going to come out this year. Just you wait and see. Well, unfortunately, it's not, but that's still okay. We got a packed year this year, packed front half of the year, and then GTA 6 is going to take all the fucking energy out of the room when that comes out later in the year. And then there will be other things, Call of Duty and whatnot. So Xbox still has a stellar lineup for the year without Fable. I think Xbox will be just fine without Fable, especially now that we're realizing that no matter what the fuck Xbox does, it doesn't seem to move the needle for them because nobody gives a shit about Xbox games. So there's also that. It doesn't matter how good this game looks or what it is when it comes out. It'll probably just get the 7.2 out of 10, and then Video Game Donkey will brush it off, and then we'll go right back to, From Software's doing this, and PlayStation's doing that, and look at baby Nintendo doing their first steps with Mario and Luigi, and we'll just go back to not giving a shit about Xbox. But in the meantime, I just gotta say, take your time, make the game the best it can be, whatever. Obviously, the bigger problem with this game isn't that it's taking so long for it to make. It's that it was just announced way too prematurely. And that's why you don't do that. But the game looks so good. Looking at this footage, it looks really impressive. So excited about that. Not surprised to hear about the delay. It's always disappointing, but it is for the better. And all is well. Now, that being said, there's another little excerpt from this little 20-minute discussion or podcast, if you want to call it that, where they talk about, games on multi-platform for the year, because basically most of this video is just kind of recapping the Xbox Developer Direct. And then Tina is like hosting. She's like, "Oh, Craig, what do you think about like going multi-platform, putting our games on other platforms?" And Craig says, "All right. Yeah, I think it's good for gamers. I think it's a good situation for our studios. Our studios make amazing games, and we want to give those games the chance to reach a broader audience as possible." And they're talking, of course, about PlayStation getting Xbox games. "I just think it's good for gamers. I think it's good to have our games reach more places, and everyone should make games that they want to make, and it should be able to reach players, as many players as possible. So I love that we can give them that opportunity." That is the most like corporate milquetoast, nothing to say kind of response, but of course, every outlet is picking up, "Here's what the new Xbox Game Studios boss thinks about going multi-platform." It's like, yeah, no shit. It's always been widely known that every developer wants to put their game on every platform because, of course, developers want you to be able to experience. It's like saying musicians want to release an album only for Apple Music and they don't want Spotify users to be able to hear their songs. It's like, of course not. They just want their art to be enjoyed and consumed by everyone everywhere. Accessibility is what matters the most. But for the platform, exclusivity is king. And of course, Xbox is never going to admit that or talk about that in any nuanced way. They're just going to give this kind of like, this is where we're going. We have to stand by the decision of the company. So be it. And so that's exactly what this comment is to me. And there's really nothing to gather from it because it's just so PR trained and boring otherwise. But nonetheless, big story here. Fable officially delayed till next year. Womp womp. Oh my God. We just got Avowed. It's awesome. Go play Avowed. South of Midnight looks phenomenal. Doom is coming. Tony Hawk remake's coming. Fucking Guitar Hero's probably coming. Maybe I just made that up. Call of Duty's coming. It's all good. We got plenty of games. Don't fret, you little fucking child. And then the rumors that Gears of War E-Day are coming this year, I don't believe that either. But let's let the rumors come, whatever. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is the more sad one because a delay, what is the Miyamoto quote? "Delay a game today, get a Shamrock Shake to hold you over. Delay a game forever and release it when it's bad. And then your Shamrock Shake is going to be delivered to you in a cardboard bag," something like that. Anyway, so Warner Bros. Just coming out and saying, last week we had this disappointing news, this reporting breakout that this Wonder Woman game had been scrapped and restarted from the development, and that the guys at WB Games Montreal were not making a Batman game anymore, and now they're going to make a Game of Thrones game, and all this disappointing news. And they said, "Hey, we can top that. Actually, give us another week. We'll top it." And so they did top it. So Warner Bros. Games have officially announced that they're closing 3 internal development studios, and they're canceling their Wonder Woman video game. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War studio, Monolith Productions, the highly acclaimed studio, is being shut down because why the fuck not? With its in-development Wonder Woman game being axed, according to Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier. Sources say that also claim that Warner is closing Multiverse's studio, Player First Games, and mobile-focused studio, WB San Diego. Warner Bros. Has confirmed the report of closures in a statement issued to Kotaku reporter Ethan Gash. It said the following in their report, or in their response to Kotaku. They said, quote, "We have had to make the very difficult decision to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises, Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios, Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB Games San Diego. It's a strategic change in direction, and it is not reflective of these teams in terms of talent. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not be moving forward. Our hope was that to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately this is no longer possible with the strategic priorities. This is another tough decision as we recognize Monolith's storied history in delivering epic fan experiences throughout amazing games. We greatly admire the passion for these 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as it is today, we remain focused on getting excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios and getting our games business back into profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond." So that's their quote. Then following the news of the cancellation of the studio shutters, a long-term consultant on Warner Bros. Recently canceled Wonder Woman game then takes to the internet to shed some light and says, in reacting to some news on Threads and Twitter, veteran comic book writer Gail Simone said, I say it's French. who has penned many issues of Wonder Woman at the comic book and served as a long-term consultant on the canceled Title video game, says that this was a gorgeous and expansive game. She wrote, "It was a beautiful game to look at. I'm not going to give any details for a number of reasons, but every effort was made to make this project not just a great game, but a Wonder Woman game, a great Wonder Woman game, a showpiece. All of that was because the team, everyone who worked on it brought their A game, programmers, artists, designers, and everyone. I don't think that I have ever worked with a team that cared more about making sure the end product was perfect." Now, I understand that that's kind of just disappointing, a kick in the balls to hear that following the news of the cancellation. But again, it's just, kind of some anecdote of someone close to the project who's worked closely with the team. Now, we'll move on and talk about other DC games in a minute, but let's just stop right here. Obviously, the studio closure is super sad. Multiverse is a game that we knew was in trouble and that was getting shut down in May. And then their mobile team, that's a sad thing as well. And then Monolith is kind of WB Games, this is kind of like WB's Visceral Games moment, because you remember when EA shut down Visceral in 2018, was it? And the world was like, what the fuck? You're shutting down Visceral? I feel like this is kind of that moment for WB where it's like, what the fuck do you mean you're shutting down Monolith? The guys that made that award-winning, highly acclaimed, well-beloved Middle-earth series, Shadow Mordor and Shadow Mordor and Shadow of War. It's just like a what the fuck moment. Like, I understand. I think this is really all just about timing more than anything. My guess is that this game was really not coming along, and they had to restart it. And right now, WB's, their gaming vertical is in trouble. And so I think they're looking at their teams and they're saying, okay, who is in the most nascent stage of development with their next AAA video game? And Monolith was at the very bottom of that list because of their restarting of this project. And they said, okay, someone has to go. Might as well be the team that is in the earliest stages of development and will cost us the least amount of grief for shutting down. And I think, honestly, the team that could get away with shutting down and not getting shit on so much would be W Games Montreal. But that must mean that they're pretty far along with their Game of Thrones game that they're working on. Or they're saying that for strategic purposes, we can only afford to have one franchise, one game in each franchise or IP in development at a time. And so you think, well, by process of elimination, you got NetherRealm working on Mortal Kombat. So that's your one core franchise. They identify their core franchises as Mortal Kombat, Harry Potter, DC, and Game of Thrones. So you got NetherRealm working on Mortal Kombat. That's one. You got Avalanche working on Harry Potter. That's two. Not to mention that they're kind of your star child right now because Hogwarts Legacy was so fucking popular and one of the best-selling games of 2023. And obviously they very much love that right now. And then you got WB Games Montreal working on Game of Thrones. And then that just leaves DC, the fourth pillar. It's like, okay, well, when it comes to DC, we got Rocksteady, who do the Batman Arkham games and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And then we got Monolith, who just did those Lord of the Rings games, who are currently working on Wonder Woman. It's like, okay, if we could only have one of these DC projects because something's got to give financially, who are we going to shut down? Who are we going to keep? And it probably became a toss-up of like, people already hate us for forcing Rocksteady to do this Justice League live service game that no one wanted. And that game blew up in our faces. So if we shut down Rocksteady, it's just going to look like we fucked them from the start, forced them to make a game they weren't meant to make. The game didn't perform, and then we shut them down, and then that's going to build a lot of bad will. Whereas Monolith, a team that's very respected, has a lot less cachet than a team like Rocksteady, and they haven't put out a game in a long time, and they've never made a DC game before, and they're going to make a Wonder Woman game and not a Batman game. And if we shut them down, fewer people will bitch and moan and bellyache and say, oh, this is our fault because we did this or this or that. And so it's just by process of elimination, the one they can kind of get away with the most, I think. But it's so fucked. This is such a big team. This is such a good team, a well-regarded team, and a really accomplished team. And so to see them just get the axe is just so shocking, you know? Man, if it was Avalanche, it would have been the second time they got the axe since Disney gave them the axe in 2016. So they just dodged a second death there, or dodged death for the second time by not being the one on the chopping block. And so I really think it just comes down to that. NetherRealm, you're never going to fuck with them because they just make their Mortal Kombat games and make shit tons of money, and it just has been rinse repeat forever. But for everyone else, it's like someone had to go, and by process of elimination, this just made the most sense. and I fucking hate it because this is like the game that I was most looking forward to. So now I don't care because it's like, man, when it comes to WB, I only give a shit about their DC games, and because I don't care about Harry Potter, I don't care about Mortal Kombat, I don't care about Game of Thrones, and it's like, wow, now Rocksteady's kind of like starting from scratch, rebuilding from the ashes, and this Wonder Woman game's canceled, and great, now there's just nothing to look forward to. And that kind of leads us into this second part of the story in the last thing in the news this week, which is that DC movie studios co-heads James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, and Peter Safran have had talks with WB studios, video game studios like Rocksteady and NetherRealm, about new DC video games. Last January, DC revealed that in the latest attempt to create a connected media universe, this time including video games in the future that features the same canon storylines and actors from the film, televisions, and animated worlds. They previously provided updates on the company's plans in the gaming space during a DC studio event attended by Comic Book, the website Comic Book. Safran said that he and Gunn were working incredibly closely with J.B. Perrette, Warner's CEO and global streaming of global streaming and games. They said, quote, "It is really the first time it's ever been this way with Warner Bros," said James Gunn. This is Peter Safran. "James and I sat with the guys at the rounds that run the studios under JB, whether it's NetherRealm or Rocksteady. We sit with them and we talk about characters and stories that we're interested in and that they're interested in. We see the design for projects in the very early stages," added Gunn. "When we talk about those, we talk about the story, what it might be, and we'll say, well, maybe you want to go this way because we're planning on maybe doing something with this character." Gunn said that the first DCU game won't arrive for a couple of years. "Yeah, it's a couple of years away, but we have some pretty active involvement in some stuff coming up that's really interesting," Safran added. So for those who need a little bit of context, so DC right now is in the middle of kind of restarting their version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, their DC universe, that largely pertains to film and TV. But they're saying that it's going to expand into video games. And honestly, the timing is kind of perfect for Rocksteady because it's like you finished the Batman Arkham series, then you made this Suicide Squad game that nobody asked for and everyone hated. And now you're kind of like a burnt star that needs to kind of like reform and rebuild. And this perfect opportunity comes in where it's like, where do we go next? And how can we go back to our roots without, digging up this series that we already completed with Batman Arkham Asylum, with the Batman Arkham series. And so now they get to work with James Gunn and Peter Safran in the DC Universe connected team. And they go, okay, well, what if Rocksteady went back to making Batman games or DC games, but instead of being in this Batman Arkham universe, it's in this DC universe, and it ties into our movies and our HBO shows and our cartoons and everything, right? Which to me is like super exciting. I love that. Like, I know people bitch and moan about like how you have to watch Marvel shows on Disney Plus now just to keep up with the MCU, but I like that idea. As long as the quality's there, I don't care. I like that idea. I like the idea. It's like you got to play the game on Xbox and then watch the TV show on HBO Max and then go see the movie in the movie theaters. I think it's a really fun way to keep it all connected and engaging, which is arbitrary because I hate when they do that with books where it's like you got to read these 4 Halo books to play this one Halo game. But that's because Halo's a medium or an entertainment, an IP that I really don't want to experience any way other than video games. But regardless of that, in this case, I find that fun. I like they've already kind of started with this universe. The new Superman movie looks fucking awesome. Creature Commandos, whatever. Creature Command, whatever. That new HBO show that's DC, that's like fucking Suicide Squad, but with monsters, is amazing. I watched every episode of that. Even my girlfriend watched that with me, and she never watches shows like that with me. And we both agree that's like one of the best DC Marvel shows that's even out there across all the streaming services. It's fucking phenomenal. So everyone loves James Gunn. Everyone loves the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Everyone loved the new Suicide Squad movie. Everyone is a fan and a believer in James Gunn. Fucking best thing Disney ever did was fire him and ruin their chances of ever having him work closely with them again. Because it's exciting. It's exciting what they're doing with DC, and the prospect of trying to weave that movie universe with TV and with video games is fun, and also gives Rocksteady this perfect excuse to hop in and go back to making Batman games without it being like contrived or trite or digging up an old franchise. So it all works out beautifully from that point. It's like, where does Rocksteady go from here? Well, they make a Batman game that's tied into this new DC universe. Love it. But why the fuck would you get rid of Monolith Productions then? Because they could go do the same thing for Wonder Woman. They could go make a Wonder Woman game that's tied into this universe. It just makes perfect sense. And now the problem becomes, well, we're about to start getting this onslaught of DC movies and TV shows that all tie in to this new universe. But WB Games isn't going to have the fucking developers to support the video game aspect of that, because video games take way longer to make than TV shows and movies. So it's like, great, we can have, I think they're talking about making like 2 movies a year and 2 TV shows a year. So it's like, great, we can watch two seasons of 2 different TV shows every year on HBO Max, and we can see a Superman movie and a Flash movie or a Batman movie every year in movie theaters. But then for video games, all you got is fucking Batman with Rocksteady, and it's like, okay, you can get a Batman game every 8 to 10 years because that's how long it takes to make a video game now. And they mentioned NetherRealm as well, and NetherRealm makes the Injustice game, so maybe they make some kind of Injustice game that's tied into the DC universe. I don't know, but like this DC cinematic universe rather. But I don't know, man. It just seems like such a squandered, missed opportunity. And I understand they got to make the money stuff make sense, but like, now is the time to double down on DC superhero video games, not scale back and kill a team. But here we go. It's 2025 and we're still addicted to laying off as many developers as humanly possible, and that's how we got here. So guys, that's it for the news. I wish it was a little more positive, but we do have some important enough stories important enough to make the podcast, but not important enough to warrant their own discussions. 2 of them real quick here. One of them is a little sad, so we'll start with the sad one first, just so we can end on a positive note. But Callisto Protocol developer Striking Distance Studios has gotten huge layoffs. Parent company Crafton said, we're reducing the size, but people on LinkedIn are like, yeah, most of the team got cut. This team has been gutted, but they remain open. And then the other news story is that one of last year's Game of the Year nominees, Balatro, has officially been added to Game Pass. So that's a really great ad for Game Pass, a game that a lot of people really, really loved. So go ahead and check that out now if you're interested in giving it a go. But guys, it's going to do for all of our news this week. That leaves us to only do one thing left. The last segment, the best segment, the comments, the shout outs from youtube.com. You know how it works. You head on over to youtube.com/XboxOnPodcast. That's at XboxOnPodcast at youtube.com. You click on the latest episode and you drop a comment. You can say something nice, you can say something mean. You can say anything in between. I don't give a shit. But it's time to hop into the comments. Now, I gotta be honest. I fucked up. I forgot to add the comments into the show notes. So I'm literally just pulling up my phone and we're going to read these comments in the order in which I've received them. Wish me fucking luck. Yeah, I fucked up here. So let's just start reading them in the order that I received them. Cronky writes in and says, when it comes to AI, I'm the old man shaking my fist at the sky. I hate it so much in every way, with all respects. Yeah, I mean, I do as well, but clearly this isn't going away. Companies need to find ways to cut costs and make things more efficient, and they're going to cram this shit down our throats until we stop complaining about it. And the unfortunate thing is, we know how this goes. Eventually, people stop complaining. People just take it. Always how it goes. So that doesn't mean don't stop bitching. Don't stop bitching. But unfortunately, I don't feel very optimistic about how this ends. Anyway, Dead Captain James writes in and it's. I know your name is now the Woker Dead Captain James, but I can't say that. So funny. Dead Captain James writes in and says, I'm really enjoying Avowed a lot. I'm around 27 hours into the game so far, and I'm only on the second zone. The mage combat is so freaking satisfying. So Dead Captain James totally understands what we're talking about here. Yes, the mage combat is so fucking good. The game is so fun. The combat is so satisfying. And Jay writes in response to you and says, I've clocked in about 10 hours so far, and yes, the mage magic is so cool. So clearly, people are loving it, dude. People in the Xbox On community, they're noticing that Avowed's a badass game, and if you're not one of them, then you're just a silly person with a different opinion that I totally respect. Cronky writes in again and says, I don't know why this matters, but since there's a lot of negativity around it, I gotta just say it. The Last of Us Part 2, this is because I said this in passing last week. The Last of Us Part 2 was actually a masterpiece, in my opinion. Video games are supposed to be interactive storytelling experiences, not a one down your pants COD, her dead games. The Last of Us Part 2 is magnificent, and I still think about it all the time. Doesn't change the fact that I prefer Xbox, but pretending that the game isn't a masterpiece doesn't help your brand that you sold your soul to. You've got some replies, people writing in, agreeing with you. Oh my God. So I'll say this, Cronky. I listen, I love the first Last of Us game. I love the Uncharted series. I love Naughty Dog. I think they're a wonderful developer. I grew up on Jak and Daxter. I think Crash is kind of overrated. I didn't really love it as a kid, and I don't really love it now, but I respect it and appreciate it. But I love Naughty Dog as a developer. Love Jak and Daxter. Love the Jak series. Love the Uncharted games, and I really like the first Last of Us a lot. I am not one of those people that hates The Last of Us Part 2. I thought The Last of Us Part 2 was a very enjoyable game overall, and I respect it a lot narratively. The thing is, The Last of Us 2 takes a lot of risks in its narrative, and I don't think all those risks pay off at all. But I respect the balls out of that game for having the gumption, the fortitude to take those risks, and I think it deserves a lot of praise and respect for that. I just didn't feel like it worked for me. A game that's supposed to leave you feeling like this cyclical like nature of like this revenge porn, like this whole like you fucked me, now I'm gonna fuck you, and how it and like showing this like story about how it's like never satisfying. It's like if someone takes something from you and then you live your life trying to get payback or trying to get revenge, it's gonna leave you a broken, empty person. And when you finally get that revenge, you're gonna realize you're still a broken, empty person, and that repeating the cycle only causes more hurt and doesn't make the world a better place and doesn't make you happy or make you feel like you got your revenge or your vengeance. It just makes you feel empty and fucked at the end. And I think that's a really fucking powerful story. And I love stories that do stuff like that. Stories that make you uncomfortable, not in like a horror way where it's like a girl fucking digging a key out of her guts to try and escape a haunted house, but like uncomfortable in the sense of like, I think of the movie Past Lives that I saw 2 years ago. Fucking love that movie. I love it so much. And it's one of those movies where it's like, oh man, I hope the couple gets together at the end of the movie. And then the movie very much ends on a note of like, no, the couple doesn't get together at the end. No, it just sucks. Everyone realizes all the missed opportunities in life, and that every time you make a big life decision, you leave a million other options and paths left on the table. And I fucking love those movies because it leaves you like thinking and feeling and wondering. And it's like, that's art. Leave the audience with a feeling and a perspective and a kind of weird catharsis that's not like, yay, the good guys won, but it's like, yeah, I relate, I get it, I understand it, I feel that, but it's not necessarily happy, it's not necessarily sad, it's just a mirror showing you a reflection of reality. And it's like, I love The Last of Us Part 2 for attempting to do that story and for having the balls to be that literary and that scholarly and that high class in a video game, because quite honestly, we do not see video games tell stories of that caliber. And I think Naughty Dog deserve all the credit in the world for attempting to do that. I just personally feel like The Last of Us Part 2 fails to pull that off. And I think a lot of it just has to do with, one, the pacing. The game is way too dragged out. It needs to be at least 8 hours shorter. And two, I don't think the way they stitch that story together complements it. I think it would be better if that game did more of a transition. Like here's a part of the game as this character, now you transition to that character, and then back and forth, rather than play the whole game as this person, now play the whole game again, but as this person. It was a total pace killer for me, and I just feel like this game is really long in the tooth from a gameplay perspective, combat segments and just things like that just drag out way too long. But I really do like The Last of Us Part 2. I do think it's obviously one of the most beautiful, stunning looking games. It has an insanely high production value. It has insanely mature writing. It has very impressive performances. It is very much a AAA, highest quality, top tier video game, top to bottom from that perspective. It's just the game did not stick the landing for me in the way that the first game absolutely did. And for that reason, I find The Last of Us Part 2 to be just a little just a little bit of a disappointment. But that being said, I hate admitting that because most people will just hear you say, I think The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't all that in a bag of chips. And then they'll just be like, oh, yeah, you understand the game's woke. The game's woke, right? They have a stupid trans character in the game. It's like, no, they don't have a fucking trans. Shut up, dude. But, yeah, I respect the opinion. I respect that people love that game. And I do feel for the developers because that game has the most like toxic dog shit conversation around it. It's really like the only PlayStation game, right? That's not just endlessly getting its dick sucked like God of War and Spider-Man and all these other games and Ghost of Tsushima. Jaguar 32X writes in, oh, thank God. It's good to see that the Jaguar 32X became sentient and wrote it in a comment and says, 100% see all the newest Microsoft games and their AI, LOL. Not sure what to say to that in response, but thank you for writing in. Have a wonderful week, sir. Jay writes in, this Jay motherfucker. He comes all the way from Australia. He goes from Australia all the way to somewhere in Europe or North America just to get access to a computer because they don't have computers in Australia. They just have meringue. Yeah, you got this fucking, what's it called? That dessert you guys got? That, what the fuck is it called? You know the dessert I'm talking about with the meringue and the berries, and that's all you got. You got that. You got Jeeps. You got fucking wildlife. You got that one Sydney Opera House building. That's all you got. You don't even have the internet. You don't even have www.com there. But he says, we've got what I've been eating, what I've been playing, and now we've got what I've been watching with your review of Captain America, Brave New World. Who needs Xbox news on an Xbox podcast? Glad the movie was heaps of fun. Thank you, Jay. I always appreciate you. Thank you for writing in. I hope you have a wonderful week out there surviving the wilderness. I love saying that, knowing full well that Australia is probably like one of the most fucking cool places in the world. Anyway, we try to maintain our ignorance and go on because Cargo Runner UK writes in quite a bit. We got a hefty write in here from Cargo Runner UK. He says, great show as always. Great to see you're not falling for the Xbox AI hype like other YouTubers. AI is a fantastic solution for many problems, but game preservation is absolutely not one of those problems. It makes zero sense. People want to preserve the exact experience. So how on earth does Xbox AI team think that AI video generation is good enough? So they are train an AI on a few hours of gameplay videos. Will it know that the secrets of the levels? Will the AI be able to beat 100% accurate, figure out complex RPG stat calculations or scoring calculations from just watching some gameplay? The game preservation statement is disrespecting the source. Games are totally missing the point. This is the same as Xbox saying that they can give you AI on the first 20 pages of the Bible, and then AI generates the rest of the Bible. I'm not going to lie, side note, I would love to read an AI-generated Bible. No need to keep a copy of the original, or the same as you saying that they can make an AI version of your grandmother so you don't have to drive over and visit your real grandmother, or saying that you don't need to preserve the Beatles' original recordings as we have tribute bands now. I think that's a very apt comparison, especially that one about the Beatles. We have tribute bands. We don't need to preserve the Beatles' original records. Well said, Cargo Runner. Very well said. And I wish I read this comment earlier when we were talking about this because this is way more poignant and apt than what I was saying. So thank you for writing in about that. I think that's a very great point. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. That ship of Theseus thing, right? How many times can you rebuild the ship before it no longer is the to where it ceases to be the ship it once was? It's like, how can an AI rebuild and preserve a game if it's not even keeping the bones and the integrity of the original game? It's just some facsimile. It's not the real thing. It's something else entirely. And that's fine. You can have an AI version of Blink the Time Cat, but don't call it game preservation because that it is not. Now, Cargo Runner, you also write in with another comment. You say, I have a huge... you say, holiday season 2024 was pretty bad for Xbox Series sales. I was thinking that Xbox are stuck in a bad position the rest of the generation, but the channel Some Ordinary Gamers recently released a video suggesting that Xbox could break into the industry now. No need to wait until the next generation. Allow the Series X to install Windows 11 so you can buy a Series X and use it in a traditional console. Or you can click on a button, install Windows 11, and use PC gaming. He suggests it would generate a lot more hardware sales, and GPU prices are really high right now. I think that this is right. And with console sales this low, Xbox does not have anything to lose by trying. What do you think? I think it's a great idea on paper, and I think I'd love to see it. It'd be exciting and fun. But I think it is way harder to do that than it sounds. I'm sure as someone who knows nothing about technology, that there is some just because the architecture of an Xbox Series X is basically PC architecture does not mean you can just install Windows 11 on it and it will run like a PC. There's got to be license agreements and certain quirks and features to how the hardware is set up to where it's not just plug and play. I would assume that it's not that simple and that they would need a whole other generation of hardware in order to really pull something like that off. Not only that, but if it were as simple as a software update and you're done, I still think it seems like a pretty niche thing. It's something that would require a very sophisticated, proper new product type rollout in order to communicate effectively to audiences. And I think that's why you want to save that for the next generation of Xbox hardware and not make it just a feature update for the current hardware. And then on top of all that, it has huge potential to be a fucking niche thing, you know? Yes, gaming PC is huge. PC gaming is huge, right? But just turning your Xbox into a PC, I don't think overnight is going to be like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to play a PlayStation 5 anymore. I'm going to go get an Xbox because it's a really affordable gaming PC on top of being an Xbox/Game Pass machine. I just think that's wishful thinking to think that you're just going to take your $500 Xbox, plug it up to a monitor, mouse and keyboard, and then install Windows 11, and boom, now you got a very capable Steam machine. It's just not how that's going to work. Although, in theory, if they could make it that easy, I think that would be a very compelling feature that would garner a lot of attention. I just don't know that it would have that much mass market appeal. And if it does, I really think you got to do it the proper way. Get a new console generation, market the hell out of it, make it this eventful thing where you very clearly and effectively and directly market it to the consumers, so there's no mixed messaging and that people know this is the new hot next generation updated version of what Xbox has become. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it without any deeper thought. But I do like the idea. It's just I just can't help but immediately then kind of dig beneath it and go, there's some problems to this. But definitely a cool idea. Thank you for writing in, sir. Objects in Space writes in next, another long one, and says, picture this. It's dark, cold, and stormy outside. There's lunatics everywhere killing and looting. A palpable sense of fear and danger. You can meet your death around the corner. Your only sanctuary is a police station where everyone is talking about the events outside. Everyone's terrified in over their heads, and you could cut the tension with a knife. Being in a police station gives you a feeling of safety, warmth, and a sense of reprieve. Who is going to stop all this madness? That's right. It's you, because you're Batman. Arkham Knight is truly one of the best atmospheric games. I can't think of many games that capture this feeling. Bear with me on this one. Maybe Minecraft? Obviously not the same level as Arkham Knight, but you're in a hurry, you build a base before the sun sets. The feeling that you have your base knowing outside the walls is dangerous. Some movies do it well, where they make the setting that you feel dangerous or oppressed. V for Vendetta, Star Wars Rogue One, like you feel the tension constantly as the world you're in, as if it's the world you are in. I'm sure loads of games have that dangerous world feeling, but what I want more games that have that feeling of that feeling I have when I return to that police station. Like, holy shit, it's mental out there. I feel safe where I am, but it's almost time to venture back out. A lot of games have elements, but dangerous world and a home base, but fail to capture that feeling. Arkham Knight nails it. Objects in Space, I'm going to be just completely transparent and honest with you. I think this is it's great write-in. I appreciate your perspective, and I think a lot of people probably share that sentiment and feel that way. Batman Arkham perfectly captures that this is a crazy, crazy world, but I don't feel that tension when I play that game. I just feel like I'm on a badass, lighthearted, rompy superhero adventure. But I totally get what you're talking about here, and I think it's great. Capturing that level of immersion in a game is a really challenging thing to do. We just talked about The Last of Us Part 2. And the other thing that makes it difficult is not everything is going to resonate to everyone the same way. A lot of things are just going to hit certain people a certain way and not others. So it's like you always got to accept that to some extent. You're only going to get your art and your point across and convey what it is you want to convey to a certain segment of the people who even choose to opt in and experience your product. So it's an unfortunate situation, but no doubt a lot of people felt that way about Arkham Knight, which is one of the many reasons why it's such a popular game and why it's so beloved even all these years later. But Objects in Space, I appreciate you writing in, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful week, you sexy man. We only have 2 comments left, so let's get into them. First of all, Billy Burgess writes in and says, listening to the podcast at Glasgow, Scotland train station, just found out it's been canceled. I want to go home and play Avowed. Oh, just found out like the train had been canceled? Or did I say the podcast was canceled in passing and you're making reference to that? Billy, Thank you for writing in. I'm sorry about your train station experience. I spent so many nights in the MARTA train station waiting on that fucking train, I swear to God. When you're a bartender or a server and you get out of work at 12:30 in the 12:30 a.m. and you're sitting there in the train station for 40 fucking minutes waiting for the eastbound train to pick you up to get you back home, and you're just sitting there on the fucking corner with your Nintendo 3DS praying to God that this train gets here. I feel that. Thank you for writing it, sir. Safe travels and have a great week. Our final comment comes from my favorite motherfucker in the whole goddamn universe. It's Sam Frito Burrito Sexy Mamacito, and he says, okay, you whetted my appetite. Jesse, I must know, how was your Ridgeline test drive? I wish I could get one in the stick shift. Okay, what a great topic to end the podcast on, as it's totally Xbox related. Dude, Honda Ridgeline, I fucking love that truck. I really like that truck. So I get this weird thing every now and again where I just have this urge to like learn all about a car and get obsessive about it. And right now it's the Honda Ridgeline for me. It started as a meme between me and a coworker. And now I'm just kind of like really into the Honda Ridgeline where I'm like, it's just such a weird, first of all, they redesigned it a lot last year and it looks really good. I think it looks way better than it used to look. It's, in my opinion, the front end still needs a little bit of work. It needs to look a little more aggressive, but for the most part, it's one of the better looking mid-size pickup trucks. And I just really admire it. Plus, it's a Honda, so it's like, here's a pickup truck I don't have to worry about because American companies have proven time and time again that they cannot fucking make trucks or cars or anything that is mechanically reliable. Basically, iPhone's the exception to the rule, and those aren't even made in America. And I say that as someone who drives a Chevy pickup truck, so calm the fuck down. I'm not ragging on America. I'm just pointing out the obvious truth, which is that American cars are shit. Anyway, the Honda Ridgeline's fucking awesome. If I were in the market to buy a vehicle, I would be very enticed by the Honda Ridgeline. I like mid-size pickup trucks. I think they are way better than full-size pickup trucks because 99.9% of people do not need a full-size pickup truck, myself included. They tow more than enough for 99% of people. They're just way easier to drive and more compact, and parking is way easier in a Honda Ridgeline or mid-size pickup truck like a Colorado or Ranger or Tacoma. And I just really admire them because it's what a pickup truck used to be to me. You know, it's like I look at a mid-size pickup truck and I'm like, they're not as flashy and showy and pavement princessy as like F-150s and Silverados and Rams have become. And they still have all the features that are needed and they're the right size and they can do all the things you need them to do. It's just Americans are obsessed with driving fucking tanks. And so we have to have everyone has to have the biggest truck they can get their hands on. But the Honda Ridgeline is super cool to me because it's super utilitarian. It has a naturally aspirated V6 engine instead of a turbo 4-cylinder like everything else. And I like that it's, well, so I would, the main reason I want to drive it was because I was like, all right, what is it like to drive a pickup truck that is unibody and not body on frame? Because I like the kind of shitty cage rolly feeling of a pickup truck. I think it's fun. Like it's one of the things that's so unique and fun about pickup trucks. So I was curious, what does it feel like to drive a pickup truck that's ostensibly an SUV? And the answer is it actually is pretty good. It has a really good feel. It's a very nice cab. You get a lot of bang for your buck with the interior on that car. I swear to God, I drove like the second lowest trim they had, and it still has like leather seats and wireless charging and fucking CarPlay and all the bells and whistles. I'm like, it's a very nice interior for, for a $42,000 truck. And I can't believe I'm saying that because $42,000 for a mid-sized truck should be insane. But, in 2025, that's normal. But I liked it. I thought it drove nice. The size is amazing. I love the really unique tailgate style of that truck where you can open it sideways and traditionally, and it has that trunk in the bed that you can use as like a cooler for tailgating and shit. It's a fun truck. It's a cool truck. I would 100% be very enticed by one of these things if I were in the market for a new vehicle, which I am not and probably will never be. But I very much do like the Honda Ridgeline. I think it's cool. And I see people on the internet, like you read the shit, everyone's like, it's not a real truck. Fuck you. The Honda Ridgeline's for babies. It's like, no. The Honda Ridgeline is the truck you buy when you're admitting the fact that you're a normal fucking human being who has a need for some of the utility a truck offers, but you don't have a complex about yourself where you have to buy an F-150 or Ram 1500 just in order to prove to the rest of the world that you're a truck guy who needs a truck because you do truck things when you're not doing non-truck things. So I like the Honda Ridgeline. I think it's humble. I think it's cool. It's reliable, gets decent fuel economy, has a great ride. very utilitarian, and great bang for your buck with that interior and those features. So all around, I think the Honda Ridgeline rocks. I would totally be interested in one. But thank you for writing in. It's a very nice, pertinent Xbox related question. And I think the audience feels a higher sense of ingratiation with the ecosystem and a higher sense of understanding about where the brand is headed now, knowing my opinions about the Honda Ridgeline. So guys, that's going to do for our podcast. That's another week. That's episode 300. Holy shit. I didn't even realize or pay attention to the fact that it's episode 300. Another milestone. Let's fucking go, guys. 300 weeks in a row, and I'm only still doing it because of all you. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you all have a great week. Have a safe week. And if you have a Honda Ridgeline, please, for the love of fucking Christ, write into the show. I'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think. Tell us about your truck. But until next week, be kind. Maybe go to Monster Jam if you feel it so inclined to do so. And why are we talking about pickup trucks so much this week? And until next week, power your dreams.